And we're live. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Crypto Talks. My name is Phil. That's Rob. And we're doing TA Monday again. So we're actually going to jump straight into everything right away because I tend to kind of drag out this thing all the time. But I'm going to start this a little bit differently this time because I found a tweet that I'd like to respond to, or that I've actually already responded to a user called Kevin Svensson, which I really like. He's a great TA analyst, and I like his content. So, but I think he underdid something a little bit, and I would like to kind of respond to that as a start to our TA. So I'm going to share this right now. So here's Kevin Svensson. If you don't follow him, you should. His name is Kevin Svensson _ on X/Twitter, whatever you want to call it. And here's the TA he did, which I like. It's basically an extrapolation of a falling wedge. So you can see what he's done here. He's pulled a trend line from here through here down to here, and the same thing at the top. Obviously, you can see that. And here's the breakout. So what he's done is he's measured from up here or down here up to this top right here, and then pulled it to here. And he's getting a target of 52K as a kind of a roof, right? Or a resistance. And I like the way this is done. However, I think we should look at this and kind of, because this 52K is not correlating to anything. That was my first reaction to this. And therefore, I think there's a better way to do this. For example, you can see this little graphic he has down here. And it's using a line chart, which works. He's also on the weekly charts here, and he's using the wicks. When I go on the weekly, I tend to use the weekly close, and I think you would agree with that too, Rob, right?
Yeah, certainly the daily. If you're going to use a wick, then or within the week, then go to the daily close. I would say I would use daily close rather than the absolute wick, which can be different on every exchange and doesn't mean much. It just means this is where the liquidity was on this exchange at this period of absolute peak, right? Fear or greed. It's less meaningless than where the actual price action centered around, which is the closes.
Yeah, exactly. The closes are more significant. And to explain that, I'm going to first pull these trend lines the way that I would pull them in response to Kevin, from the weekly close, which is this one, through, kind of going to ignore that this isn't perfect right here. So I'm going to hit this one instead, right? And I'm going to do the same at the top. I'm going to pull it from this right here down to this, and we're going to try to line it up as well as we can. There we go. So now we have the same lines as Kevin does. But now when I switch this to line chart instead, you're going to see that they line up much better, see, like that, with the actual, where the price is actually turned around on the line charts. I don't use the line charts very often, but if you're in a large pattern like this, or long term, a line chart is fine, okay? So we're going to use the line chart for this one. For once, I think this is the first time you're going to see, and probably one of the last times you're going to see the line charts on our show. But this is just to preface.
I use them. I like them. But yeah.
I mean, it works in certain cases. I'm going to hop back first, and we're going to pull the same line as Kevin did, which was from this weekly wick up to the all-time high wick, which is right about there. And we should be getting about, from this line breakout, about 52. So 52.2. Okay, cool. That's where Kevin sits. Yeah. I'm going to delete this one, and I'm going to make a new one from where we put our lines right here. Oh gosh, I'll go to the line chart just to make sure. Yeah, cool. And I'm going to pull this, put this right here, and then I'm going to make a line from this top where it correlates to the top that we've been talking about, which is 48K. Now this gives me much more I guess trust in that this will be a topping thing, because we've been talking about 48K for gosh, I think we've had that there since kind of the bull market or the bottom kind of came in, and we started seeing trend up. I think we've been talking about 48K being one of the levels where we might be hitting later on. And so I like this a bit more. All respect to you, Kevin, but I think this one is slightly more accurate to find that top, because it correlates to this very significant pump right here as well. So that's all I wanted. I just wanted to show you that. I wanted to respond to Kevin. I really like Kevin a lot. I've followed him for a long time, but I think this one, it feels more like a solid, end, solid top than the 52. Because 52, like I said, is in the middle of nowhere. 52 is right there. And I don't really see 52 being... It's in the middle of a bunch of stuff. Okay, this top right here, but that's about it. So yeah, there's that. Now,
there is
any comments, Rob?
Well, no, I think you've said it quite clearly. There is one very clear historical precedent that I can set up if you just want to switch to my chart.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure.
Which is, so let's just go back. So here's the 2018 bull market. Oh, let me just take off all of these extensions. We don't want those. There we go. So if you just dragging a fib from the top all the way down to the bottom, and this is just a normal linear fib. I'm on the log scale, but if you just switch to there, and you can see we got very, very firm resistance at the 618 level. And if we just want to compare history, we just say we know the 618 does hold a lot of precedent. You can see quite clearly, from the overall bull market, how well these fib levels were respected at multiple times. Not necessarily the precise level, and yes, sometimes they were ignored as price sort of drifted to other levels. But generally, when you have these big pumps, these big moves, the fib levels were a decent place to buy or to sell. And if we just switch to present day, then, well, we can see some sort of historical precedent that right there. And if we did exactly the same move again and went to the 618, well, that's at 47,800. And that's another reason why we keep talking about that 48 level, because 47 in terms of where this top happens, but we always talk about zones. It's not going to be a to the dollar level, and it always makes me laugh when you actually did it today in response to your tweet, and it's like the level is $47,000, $179.43, and it's like, just give it to the nearest 100, man. It doesn't matter. So I'm looking at the entire sort of range of kind of 47 to 48,000 to be where things ultimately top out. Things can top wherever they want. There's no fundamental reason why things can't just stop here. And this is it. Bull market over. Bull market cancelled. Back we go down. That can happen. It's less likely. It's more likely that over time the market is going to move up and down towards these big fundamental levels. And say we've identified 48 as one of those levels, and it's certainly a level we'll be watching, particularly if we have multiple confluence with other indicators, things like bearish divergence on long-term RSIs, where you can see the trend is weakening as the price is going up, and you can kind of get a feel of, okay, the trend is over. Trends take time to reverse, so it doesn't exactly the same as trying to catch knives. You can catch green knives as well. Like, you can sell far too early into a rally because you're thinking, oh, it's got to stop here because it's 60% up in 2 days. Nope. Doesn't have to. Not if there's more buyers than sellers. And if you're one of the sellers and somebody is buying, well, that's, there is always a buyer for every seller. There's always a seller for every buyer. Someone has to make the bad decision to satisfy your good condition, your good decision.
Yeah, but it doesn't necessarily mean that selling something like that is a bad decision. If you I did this myself, right? I everything was oversold last week, or overbought, sorry, and I thought, okay, this is a good time to sell, which objectively it was. In in this, like in the weekly time frame, for example, looking at Solana, which was what I sold. Yeah, I sold in it in a good spot. Well, Solana kept going. Okay. Dang, right? But it's like it's not an objectively bad sell, right? It's just it is what it is, right?
Yeah, so, and this is where I would, I always recommend to anybody is don't go all in and all out in one trade. Don't, if you've got $1,000 to allocate, split it up into pots of $200 or $100 or $50. You do not have to buy all at once, and it's obviously very, very tempting when you see prices just going up and up and up. And yeah, if you can stomach it, if you can accept being wrong and going, okay, I'm going to ape in. Either recognize a stop loss or recognize a reversal and go, okay, no, I'm 20% down. I made a mistake. I'm going to get out because this is going to go down another 50%. But at the same time, you've got to do that based on a rational decision, not based on, oh shit, I just spent $1,000 and now it's 20% down. I'm selling. I'm not. Don't go. I'm going to sell before I lose more money. This is, the charts say this is going to. This is going to go down, but more, and you have to be okay with that decision being wrong because you may well get it wrong. This is if ever you decide to buy or sell something, there is an inherent risk involved in that. Whenever you buy it, whenever you sell it, there is the risk that you sold too late or too early. There's the risk that you bought too late or too early, and don't beat yourself up about it if you do make a mistake, but also don't go all in on one coin, on one sector, on one market. Just don't trade based on fear of missing out.
Yep.
Don't trade based on FOMO.
And you can utilize it because you were saying, you split things up and you buy, let's say $100 there, $100 there. That's great. You can also use trailing stops, for example, for both buy and sells, which I am going to start utilizing more. I can say that much. But yes, you're right. And I do want to bring something up real quick because you mentioned, the top is not going to be exactly 48K, right? So I just wanted to show that what I've done here with these two lines here is that, we got this to be exactly on the weekly close. And here's the weekly wick. And that's 46,901, even though we're not using exact numbers, and the range up above that is 48,454. So the range is in between there somewhere, at least in my book. Obviously we can be wrong too, but that looks at least more attractive than 52K. So there's that. Do we have anything? Because I kind of wanted to look at Solana real quick because I've been looking at it so much lately. And something that I wanted to bring up was because everything dumped today except for Bitcoin and ETH. We had I'm going to go to the 4-hourly here and just zoom in on Bitcoin here. We had the breakout on Bitcoin from this trend line earlier in the week on Friday last week. And it kept going. Like we kind of anticipated a breakout from this trend line for quite some time, right? And now we finally had it, and obviously that is a breakout. You can see the difference between this and this is quite basically just this thing. So we're looking at this, and we kept saying we break out from this. A lot of people were saying 40K is going to be where it stops, and we said, both of us agreed, 40K is just a psychological level. There is nothing in the past where that kind of sits.
Weak source. It wasn't a level that I'm looking at and going, ooh,
yeah, exactly.
It scared 40K.
It didn't scare me like Michael Myers. Okay.
Yeah, the scariest thing about it, it's got a lot of zeros in it. That's about it. That's the only scary thing about that number. And we blasted. We tried to stop briefly at it and then blasted through it like it wasn't there. So
precisely, and which is kind of what we predicted. And then after that, we said 48K. If you guys remember that. I don't think we said anything about 42, which is kind of where it stopped out right now.
42 was 42 was a 2021 level. That was a
right, yes.
If you just go please fix your scaling. goddamn cretin. If you do look at where 42 is, it's essentially the level around sort of where it fell off. Around the 3AC collapse, that was kind of the level where 42 was relevant. Yeah. And so we had that pump up to 48, and then it was more sort of 40-ish. But yeah, that 42 was the peak. That was the last sort of peak. I know, because that that level kind of screwed me a little bit on the way down. I had a long open, and I was like, oh, very nearly got it back to break even, and then it hit. So
well, it is what it is. And again, 42K is right here. So we this is the daily right now, and so far there's no evidence to say that 42 is going to be where it stops. It's just a candle, and it's currently sitting there. When you go to the 4 hourly, you get why did it stop doing the scaling thing? So now suddenly we have this, and it doesn't mean, we obviously already eaten up that red candle on Bitcoin. And I don't think 42K is going to be where we stop this. ETH kind of followed suit with Bitcoin. It went up, and it's got more red in it than Bitcoin does, but it's held up much better than everything else, because we have Solana just completely falling off, bouncing on this 5970 level, which is kind of the top around here, and these tops right here. It's not that significant except for this volume right here, so I'm guessing this might be where it stops. I think it wants to move into this trend line right here, which is supported here and all the way down here, which is a very long-term one. So I think right around here, 60 is kind of where it's going to sit for a while before it bounces on that trend line. That's my quick TA on Solana. I'm not going to go deeper than that. Render had the same thing. We had a huge wick, as you can see right here, then followed by a huge red candle, and now it's kind of stuck, I guess, kind of above these tops right here. And that's it. Don't think Render will go much further down short term. It could reverse into...
Depends what Bitcoin does. If Bitcoin wants to have a bit of a cool down and start trending downwards, we also follow.
Yeah, that's kind of where I was getting to. Looking at the daily RSI, everything is still very toppy. It still has room to move, and I think it's the same thing for Solana. Yeah, on the daily, everything looks like it still has a little bit to move. ETH right there, Bitcoin right here is getting very toppy. But again, you can stay green for quite some time, as you've noticed during this period here. Injective, and these are all coins that I have in my bag, by the way, what I'm going through right here, right now. Just to full disclosure, or whatever people usually say on their internets. We broke a trend line here on Injective. This is my kind of target to buy back in, layered in. So it's 13 and then 10. I'm not sure it's going to happen. I hope. But what can I do? This
is one of those where maybe it comes down there. If things go very bad, then that's the kind of level where this that could be the next bottom. Certainly possible. But if we're not dumping for 3-4 months, then maybe we'd have to revise that upwards a little bit.
Again, like I said, it's this right here, this 10 is supported by all this stuff, right? This is Injective, just so you know. So it's supported by a lot of stuff. There's very powerful support there. This 13, I think I just put that on the weekly, if I remember. The weekly close is here, which is why it's 13.4-ish. And I think that's a lot more attractive in terms of where I'm going to be able to get in, realistically. Everything is a bit cooled down, and even on the 4 hourly, this huge wick is saying a lot. Same thing with Python. These are my get-in levels. That one hit, so that's nice. But again, it's... Whoa. Oh, God. This is why I hate the scaling thing. I just like to zoom in and have it...
Yeah, but see, look,
just live with it.
Notice how easy it was to resize it once it was auto-sized. That's what the joy is.
Yeah. I just gotta get used to that stuff, man. All right. TRB as well. actually hit the fib level. I haven't. I remember. When I was gonna get home today, I was gonna look at the fibs for on everything, but I just haven't had time yet. But yeah, we bounced here on TRB. So anyway, Bitcoin seems to be wanting to keep going up, to be fair. So maybe 48. I don't know. Like 48 is. I like 48, man.
Yeah, it's when you're already up here, you're up here at yearly highs. The suggestion that it's just going to suddenly go down and reverse and stop. No, it's not. If it does, and yes, we had a big red candle, okay, well, it's going to bounce and it's going to go back up. So while people are buying the dip, buy the dip works. Buy the dip only stops working when we get into a real extended sort of proper downtrend, and you then start to see the dips go deeper and the rallies are a lot smaller. At the moment, we're not in that. We're in a buy the dip scenario, and it takes time for that buy the dip mentality to die down, because people have to basically get wrecked. They have to buy the dip, and then it has to dip again, and they buy it again, then it dips again, and they're suddenly deeper than they want to be and in more of a loss than they want to be. And that's when they stop buying the dip. And that's suddenly why you have a downtrend, because guess where the dip buyers are? Well, they're all in. They've bought. The smart money is sold. Buying the dip is not smart money. Buying the dip can be smart money if they spot the uptrend and they're aggressively chasing because they want allocation, but they're doing that because they've identified likely a long high time frame entry, and they're going, whether we're getting at 41 or 43 or 45 doesn't really matter. That's when they start aggressively chasing. But if they see the market being constrained and going, okay, this is cooling down, they'll pull those bids. They will not buy if they think a downtrend is coming. They will wait for the downtrend to come out. And that's exactly why we get big uptrends, and then we get distribution patterns. And that's, I know you're not particularly fond of the Wyckoff because it's like, oh, you can kind of fit it to anything. But if you see it just as a general framework of behavior of people doing the same sort of thing, and TA works because it works. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy, and people look for these patterns, and they look and they go, okay, yeah, it's retested the high. It maybe even broke the high, but it was a weaker high. It was a bearish divergence. It came all the way back. It broke the lows again, and now it's failing to break those highs. People see that, and that's what makes them start to sell their bags. They see bearish patterns forming, but while everything's pointing sky highwards, there are no bearish patterns. So buying, selling now, or just selling, you might nail the top. Great. That's exactly the same principle as buying the bottom of a wick. It's just wick hunting. And so being patient, riding the wave, riding the trend. And if you have to sell 30% from the high, or 20%, I didn't know 30%, but say 20% from the high, and that's where you end up getting out, well, that is okay. Yeah, it sucks to lose 20%. That's a fifth of your money gone. But if you've ridden it up 300-400% higher because you didn't sell early, then you can afford to hand those gains away. That's kind of the entire principle behind my strategy. Is it tries to ride trends. The trend, this is what I'm using for my portfolio, and so right now it's in. And earlier I saw this, we saw this big red candle, and I saw my portfolio drop by a few percent. I'm like, oh, what happened there? But nothing sold. A few things hit the stop loss, because I do after it's in a nice profit. Yeah, it takes a stop loss, and it then allocates that capital again. So all it did was it sold a few things, and a few other things went, oh, well, I've just had a nice big red wick down, and I'm now ready to buy. And so it just bought those new things. And so I'm currently riding that trend upwards, and it can be frustrating sometimes. You can get stopped out. You're not going to be perfect. I've got I'm using my trading strategy because it works for me. It represents what I want to do, but it's not perfect. But neither am I. So, what standards do you hold yourself to when you're trading? Because if you want to be perfect, if you've got something that goes up 5,000% and you look at your actual profit from trading it and you made 2,000%, you might look at it and go, oh, well, I threw away loads of gains there. But the reality is you didn't know where the bottom was, you didn't know where the top was, and you didn't know what the volatility in between was. And if you can take 2,000% out of a 5,000% move, congratulations, you won. The people who hold, and they hold long term, they hold for 10, 20 years, sounds brilliant. Sound absolute congratulations if you do that. And the only coin I would ever do that with is Bitcoin. For me, every altcoin is available to sell.
Mm-hmm.
Now,
agree.
But even then, doing it with Bitcoin is a risk. Mm-hmm. Okay, yeah, we all believe in it, but it's still a risk. And even if it's not a risk in terms of it going up, is Bitcoin going to be the highest appreciating asset in the next decade, having been the highest appreciating asset of the previous decade? No. There are other things that are going to grow faster than Bitcoin. The question is, how much risk do you have to take to buy those things and hold those things through decades, through multiple 50, 60, 80% drops? How strong are your hands? Because if you haven't got those strong hands and you haven't made the right bet, that's where trading can be useful.
Mm-hmm. I'll say this too, like, you know, the argument for Bitcoin where it's like Bitcoin is pretty much irreplaceable at this point. I mean, Bitcoin replaced something that's been used for 5,000 years as money, which is gold, right? That's kind of the argument for Bitcoin in a way, right? It took 5,000 years to find something better. Well, will it take 5,000 years before Bitcoin is replaced? Maybe, I don't know. You know, it's hard to reinvent the wheel, right? However, you know, something like, you know, when you're looking at altcoins, like, okay, Ethereum, great. Ethereum was great. When was it? 2015, or whenever it came out. I can't even remember now.
2015, around then.
Yeah, let's say 2015. People that bought in there and just held to now, congratulations, you're rich as F. Okay, cool. However, it's like, do you really want to hold ETH for another decade from here instead of something else? Because ETH can be replaced, and all you need is better tech and more adoption. It's not going to be replaced on all levels, but replaced as the faster horse. Obviously, Solana is currently winning that race against ETH. And this actually brings me into a tweet that I responded to a tweet like a week ago. There was this guy who, I'm actually going to open this up because I do have it here.
Get it up.
So I responded. I just tweeted this on our. Sorry, I posted this on X. I'm still in the Twitter camp.
X'd it?
Yeah, I X'd it. X'd it? Whatever. I posted on X. I responded to a guy on X that he just proclaimed that he had sold all of his ETH into Solana, like on that day, like last week, Friday, Saturday, something like that. And I looked at that and said, ooh, a bit late. You know, and I responded with respect, obviously, and I said, you know, look, maybe there was, you know, you could have done it here. Maybe, like, I don't want to step on anyone's toes, but it was obviously depending on time preference, you know, maybe it's a good trade for the next 2 years. Sure, it's going to be good. But he could have picked a better time. So my response was basically that, you know, I here's a picture of one of our tools giving you better signals, right? Obviously, you can't really see this here. Just check out our X account and make sure you follow us there, by the way, if you haven't yet. Just make sure you do. But I do have it open here, though. So essentially, he sold ETH into Solana right here after Solana had let's go all the way to the worst case scenario, 403% rally against ETH. And then he flipped it. And I'm like, bruh. So essentially, I put this picture up on X and I said, you should probably have bought Solana at this point with your ETH, which is when our swing trading strategy that will be available so soon.
Just stop saying it until we've done it. We'll do it. Yeah. We'll have it done when it's done. It's coming.
Yeah,
it's soon.
It's coming. Which is coming. It's coming. It gave you a heavy. This is a green heavy buy signal for Solana versus ETH. So had you flipped here, and then sold your Solana into ETH here, you would have made about, let's say, 400%.
300%. It would have bought the top of the candle.
Sorry. No. It flashes during it. So
yeah.
Let's take worst case scenario. Candle close to candle close, 148%.
Yeah. Bear in mind, there was some gnarly wicks. That's a big drop down.
That's a pretty good trade, like in terms of flipping over. So this thing will give you signals like that. But I thought it was kind of like, ouch for this guy. And I kind of felt bad afterwards.
And if we just zoom into the daily on this briefly, just so we can see the kind of how it looks on there. It's like, there were more opportunities to sell. We're talking about 5 opportunities to buy below the current price level. Mm-hmm. And that's where it would have been a good idea to actually, buy Solana, or preferentially pick Solana. Now, yes, of course, as you can see on this gives signals on the way up. You can have multiple periods of being overbought. You can spend weeks overbought, like we can see there. And so, do you want to sell the first signal that comes up every time? Well, no, this is just a signal. This is just an alert to say it's oversold. Now, in a downtrend, or maybe just leave them on for a second.
Sure. I'll leave them on.
Is because if you just look in the downtrend, notice the sells. You got 1 or 2 sells, and they were all really brilliant places to swap your Solana into ETH. The buys not so good. Now we're a bit flip side. We're in a bull market. The buys are absolutely nail bottoms, and the sells aren't so good. So this is a really good. This strategy is. We really like it, but you have to interpret it sensibly, and you have to look at it, and you have to adjust your bullishness according to what the market is telling you. Because if you're in a bear market and you get those sell signals, they are serious. They're not to be ignored, because overbought periods in a bear market are rare. Similarly, oversold periods in bull markets are rare. So when these flash up and it comes up and it says, here's an opportunity to buy cheaply in an uptrend, you should pay more attention to it. And so and obviously, the weekly time frames, the more zoomed out the time frame, the more weight you can give these signals. Weekly and monthly reversals are meaningful, and people pay attention to them. Whether or not if you're looking at the 4 hour, you can completely miss the longer term move. And so people now will look at Solana and go, oh, all of crypto's going up and Solana's gone up more than everything, so Solana's going to carry on going up more than everything. And maybe it will. Exactly the same. That exact thing happened with ETH in the last bull market, where there were very few things that really happened to outpace ETH. And I remember I had a bucket load of ETH bought right near the bottom in 2020, and the amount of ETH I had in 2020 is worth more now than my entire portfolio. Like, if I had just bought and held that ETH, I would now have more of a portfolio than what I have entirely, because ETH just massively outperformed. And I was, not making bad decisions in the sense that I was going, okay, this has made an absolute ton of profit, and I'm looking at these and going, these are relatively undervalued plays. I'm going to sell some ETH and I'm going to buy some of these. And some of them worked out brilliantly. Others, just no interest versus Ethereum. And that's a risk. So there are layers of risk. Solana is riskier than ETH. Could it well just blow past and make an all-time high? Well, if its adoption curve is faster than ETH and its tokenomics fit it, then yes, it could continue to make higher highs versus Ethereum. But Ethereum's quite unpopular at the moment, and Ethereum always goes through a period of being very popular and then being very unpopular, because it's it's too expensive and it's slow. Nobody uses it, so because it's too expensive. Okay, well, why is it too expensive? Oh, because too many people are using it. It doesn't make sense. Ethereum's price as a token is a function of its usage, and its ability to hold this valuation is a function of its usage. And I was saying multiple weeks ago, for multiple weeks, don't underwrite ETH, don't write ETH off yet. And if we can just switch onto my chart for a sec. Just
Gotcha.
Oh,
that doesn't work.
Okay.
Hold on, let me see
I
if
just
that does it. Now it does it.
there it did. Yeah, I just took my I just lost my screen for a second.
Oh.
So yeah, that was a bit bizarre. So yeah, ETH BTC is still. Oh, these some nice short-term lines I drew last week. Actually, let me just zoom in because these were directly from last week. And yeah, it looks like it's kind of hugging this trend line. Not a very well defined one, but it's hugging this trend line. It looks like it's going to come down and touch it again. So that would be a nice sort of lining up bottom with this range again. And you know, this is sort of what when I mentioned this long term. This is a long term uptrend, which I think is on here. Yeah, the Bitfinex chart goes a lot further back, where we're kind of hugging this
right.
this uptrend. Yeah, and this could go on for weeks, months, where ETH just kind of doesn't make its mind up and it sits here and it actually has an accumulation against Bitcoin. Or it could just plow through this trend line, in which case ETH is showing itself to not be one of the leaders of this market. That Bitcoin is going to lead this section of the market, and that's perfectly feasible. It's most coins, and this is the thing to remember: most coins do not survive against Bitcoin. And as much as everybody had a lot of faith in Ethereum in 2018, 19, 20, that it also more like 21 when it was going nuts, that Ethereum was going to be the next savior of crypto, much bigger than ETH, than Bitcoin. Sorry, maybe it will, and I'm sure it will continue to grow, but it doesn't have to gain more than Bitcoin forever.
Yeah. I mean, it has. I mean, Ethereum has competition. That's the problem for ETH. I mean,
it has other things that can take its market share.
I mean, it would be fun to compare Solana Bitcoin to ETH Bitcoin, because and see how they stack up. Because right now, you know, we're looking at this. If that breaks, it's going to be oof for ETH holders. You know, and I don't like the Solana is an ETH killer argument thing. I think it's ridiculous because I really don't think that Solana is not there to replace ETH. It's not there to kill ETH. It's there to fix what ETH, the ETH problems, more so than layer 2s on ETH are fixing ETH.
Yeah.
That's kind of how I look at Solana.
Well, so this chart does kind of show it all, really. You can see Solana gaining dominance while Ethereum loses it. And it's kind of maybe not so much a coincidence that ETH BTC stopped going down slightly before Sol BTC stopped going up. You know, you can see sort of where this approximate lineup was. That Sol BTC went nuts, and at the same time ETH BTC is now bottomed. So it is a fair possibility that you do see a rotation of people saying, okay, Sol's had a run. Sol BTC can now sort of calm down, and we kind of look that it's not looking particularly bullish right now. It's not broken significantly these range lows, so yeah, it could hold on for a while, but it's failed to make a higher high versus Bitcoin. That's this is another sort of thing to look at with Solana, as we have mentioned multiple times, is look at the Bitcoin pairs. And as much as Solana has done absolutely fantastically, it dropped. It had a long way. Oh, there you go. Let's just get rid of that one. So it had a long way to drop, and it's, as it stands, not managed to actually really break that significant high. Will it?
No.
Probably. I think it will do going into the next bull run, because Solana is clearly one of the leading coins, and those leading coins tend to be leading. But if you just go back, you can see every single time multiple very, very large drops of 30s, 40s. Even in bull markets, you've got a 40% drop there of Solana versus Bitcoin. Just that what looks like a tiny little drop there. The big drop, however, the entire top to bottom was more like 90% versus Bitcoin. So it has so much more room to move up, and it's made a decent chunk of that move. can it maintain that move? Well, it probably needs a bit of time to calm down. And although it may keep going up, and it may keep outpacing Bitcoin, if it outpaces Bitcoin, we're likely to see, and this uptrend continues, we're likely to see increased risk taking. And if that increased risk taking goes on, then people move away from Solana, ETH, Bitcoin, and they start moving on to smaller cap stuff. So that again takes a bit of, you start seeing other things move, and that takes a bit of shine off Solana, because remember that the news is very fickle and hype is very fickle, and it can come and go very quickly. And you just have to consider the potential that although Solana may go absolutely nuts, then it may also drop 50% versus Bitcoin.
Yep.
And that's just normal. That's not bad. It's just normal. And if you stop paying so much attention to the dollar chart and you go, okay, we're in an overall uptrend, I want to maximize my Bitcoin value while we're in an uptrend, while Bitcoin's in an uptrend, then if you're holding any altcoin which is going down versus Bitcoin, then you are taking additional risk for a smaller reward.
Yep.
And if you're taking additional risk for a smaller reward, then you're not trading sensibly.
Yep.
And that's the reality of it. Is if your altcoin is still bleeding versus Bitcoin, I'm not saying drop it here, but just have a look and go, is this something I want to hold long term? Are there better allocations that I can make now? Because a lot of people they get caught in the sunk cost fallacy. So the sunk cost fallacy, essentially, I bought something, it's down 80%. I might as well hold it now because it's down 80%. Well, there are 5,000 coins that are down 80%. Are you holding the best one?
No.
Are you holding the best 80% down coin? Because you could have been in, you could have looked at that and gone, I'm going to get rid of my ETH, which is 70% down or 80% down, and swap it for Solana, which is 97% down. And that it suddenly becomes a much better risk to reward. And that is a relatively obvious play in hindsight. But if you just start to pay attention more to these comparatives, it can really just open your eyes a bit more to something that you're not paying attention to.
Yeah, and this is one of the reasons to why we want to do deep dives on projects, because as a segment of this show, not this particular one, but like on Saturdays or something, we want to start doing these. And obviously not every Saturday, but we want to start doing project deep dives. We did one on Blur. We haven't had time to do one on anything else currently because we're building all the tools and all that, so we're focusing on that. But once that's done, we're looking to do deep dives on projects that we find to be interesting. We're always looking for projects. If we find something that we find to be interesting, for example, I just showed you my bag. It's Ethereum, Solana, Bitcoin, Render, Injective, etc., and Pyth, and all this stuff. Those are interesting to me because I've done as much research as I can, but we want to take that type of project that we like, or something that we find that might be absolutely horrendous, and kind of warn people about it. Because if you're not playing the game with the best god dang it, whatever, with the best stuff,
tools,
the chance of
coins, investments, whatever.
The best. I'm thinking about chess. The best pieces, whatever. If you're not using the best ones, your chance. If you play chess and you only use the small ones, what are they called again?
Well, this one's not making it into a clip, is it?
No, pawn. I don't think so. A pawn. Thank you. Bloopers reel. Anyway, what I'm trying to say is, if you're just using the crappy stuff, your chance of winning is much less. So we want to make videos or deep dives that are on good coins, so that we can actually see if it's good or not. Either way, I do want to say hey to everybody in the chat. By the way, I see Silvio is here, Cyrus is here, Toki, Imre, Kavik is here, and it's good to see you guys again. Keep chatting, guys. Just spam the chat. It's all good. The more you talk, the happier we are. And if you have questions, ask them. But we do have to round off here because we're coming up to 45 minutes. So, yeah, if you guys haven't subscribed already, I'm hoping that you will. That would help. So leave a like, subscribe, join the Discord, and follow us on all the social media stuff. We have it's a rolling thing down here at the bottom. And it still says Twitter there. Just noticed. We'll fix that. But yes, so we'll see you tomorrow because we're doing Macro Tuesday.
Yes.
I think. Yes.
We are.
We are. Yeah. So we'll see you then. Cheers.
See you then.
Bye.
Bye.